Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for this Infosec webcast on CompTIA Security Plus certification update. My name is Jeff, and I'll be moderating the session today. If you've been on our CompTIA webinars before, you're probably familiar with Patrick. He's done a number of these with us. So great to have him to give us the inside scoop on Security Plus, which is actually the most popular cybersecurity certification in the world, as far as I know. Patrick has a Master's of Education and directs cybersecurity workforce certifications per CompTIA, including the Security Plus. He assisted the US White House to create the Lockdown Your Login campaign to promote multi-factor authentication and has over 20 years of IT industry experience. He has implemented a wide variety of IT projects and helped create leading IT job role certifications used at corporations, colleges, governments, and militaries across the globe. Thanks for coming back, Patrick.
Pleasure to be here. Thanks, Jeff.
So this webinar is going to be pretty straightforward. We're just going to go over the kind of the basics of the Security Plus and the job landscape, talk about some of the changes from version 601 to 701, what's changing in the industry as well as on the exam, go over the exam, share some training resources, and as always, try to answer as many questions as you have. So, hoping to mold this to whatever y'all are looking to get out of this. So before we get started, just it's always nice to get a sense of why people are here, whether you're planning on, taking the Security Plus exam this year, or you're just evaluating your options. So would appreciate it if y'all just take a minute to answer this. And while they do, maybe, Patrick, we can talk just a little bit about the Security Plus. I guess my biggest thing looking at these slides was just past 700,000 certification holders. I think it felt like just a couple years ago, it was 500,000 certification holders. So definitely a popular cert.
That's right. The growth has been wonderful, especially in the area of cybersecurity for CompTIA. And, we see Security Plus continuing to do well. As you mentioned, 700,000 IT pros have received Security Plus certification. And believe it or not, that amounts to almost a quarter of the entire US cybersecurity workforce as well. And if we look at different Security Plus references in resumes, about 13% of all of the, job recs are requesting, Security Plus when employers are hiring. They're listing Security Plus in about 13% of all the job ads when we go out and analyze them. And so it's impressive, and the reason is because Security Plus is really providing those baseline skills needed to get into a cybersecurity career.
Great. Let's check out the poll here. Oh, surprising amount. Nearly half are planning on earning their Security Plus this year. The other half looks like they're just evaluating. But yeah, those numbers are going to keep rising. So yeah, let's get into the meat here. I'll pass it over to Patrick to go through these slides here, but feel free to drop your questions in as we go, and if it makes sense to interrupt Patrick and get those questions answered, I'll jump in.
Okay, that sounds great. Well, hello everyone. As Jeff mentioned, I'm Patrick Lane from CompTIA. I'm the product manager for Security Plus, and so in that I help manage the product lifecycle. So from the very beginning to when we do a job task analysis to determine the job roles, all the way to the release of the exam, and then then we rinse and repeat and do that every 3 years. And so Security Plus, it's a global cert that validates the foundational cybersecurity skills to perform core security functions and pursue an IT security career. And so it's used by many employers to ensure that whomever they hire have got the baseline cybersecurity skills needed to get the job done. And so we consider it an early career certification for someone who wants to get into cybersecurity. It also helps with the vocabulary of cybersecurity. And so that, if you take Security Plus, you're speaking the same language as the industry. And when you talk to other cybersecurity professionals, you can communicate well with them because you have a solid background of cybersecurity principles, and as well as the tasks, skills, and knowledge and abilities required to do those tasks. And so we've just released the newest version, and that's why I'm here. The new version of the exam is named SY0-701. That's the exam code for it. And that was released on November 7th, so it's hot off the press. And then SY0-601, that was the previous version. And so those of you who are studying for the previous version, you should still go ahead and take the previous version because it still has the same purpose, and it is still, covering the same general domains that are covered in 701. So 601 is going to be available until July 31st, 2024. So those of you that might be in school right now studying for 601, don't worry, it'll be out there through the end of the academic North American school year. And so in other words, if you're studying right now and you're trying to decide which version should I take, if you're already in a program, take 601. But if you are, just jumping in now to learn about Security Plus for the first time, you should probably take a course that starts in 701. All right. And as far as the overview goes, right now the cybersecurity industry is growing rapidly. And so there's about 4.7 million cybersecurity pros globally in the workforce. But believe it or not, that's a $3.4 million or 3.4 million person global shortage, which means we have a long way to go because, for nearly every job out there with cybersecurity, there's an unopened job, an unfilled job somewhere. So we really need to get people trained in cybersecurity skills so we can fill this gap, because that global shortage is, you can see, enormous. As far as the market, it's expected to double between now and the end of this decade. And so there should be a lot of opportunity for those who wish to go into this area. And when we talk about, why is there the shortage of cybersecurity professionals, those that we talk to, hiring managers, they are saying, 43% say the biggest cause is not being able to find enough qualified talent. So Security Plus can help you become qualified talent. And the job market, we already mentioned some of this. 700,000 IT pros have received Security Plus. It's about 24% of the total employed cybersecurity workforce in the US, and 13% of cybersecurity job openings request Security Plus. And if you go to cyberseek.org, you can find all of these stats. And if we look at more specifically the job role stats, in 2023, there were 86,000 job postings that were listing Security Plus. On average, that number will bump up. Sometimes it's over 100,000, sometimes it's down to 60,000. The job ads really vary depending on companies and what they're advertising and what their budgets are. So that's a number that varies. And then the median pay for Security Plus is about $80,000, as this is considered an early career certification. If we look at the differentiation of Security Plus to other certs in the industry, and we ask ourselves, what is Security Plus? It's a global certification that validates the foundational cybersecurity skills necessary to perform core security functions and pursue an IT security career. And we mentioned that earlier. And that really comes with 3 different value messages, which we have listed here. When we look at launching a successful cybersecurity career, this is teaching some of the core skills, as we're going to find when I go through the objectives in a bit. And so you're learning about the basics of cybersecurity and the vocabulary and, the software and hardware that's typically used in this area. And we find that more job roles use Security Plus for the baseline cybersecurity skills than any other certification in the industry, if we look at it to our competitors as well. And that is because Security Plus, it's been around for since 2002, so it's about 21 years now in the industry, and it's been we've been able to test it out and refine it to a point where it's a fantastic assessment of someone's cybersecurity skills. In order to do that, we also have to make sure it assesses on-the-job skills, which is the second item here. And so Security Plus, it's one of the only ISO ANSI accredited early career cybersecurity certs on the market with hands-on performance-based questions on the certification exam. So when you go in to take Security Plus, there will be simulations on the exam that will test your ability to do real-world tasks that you would do on the job. For example, work with a vulnerability scanner, for example. And then also it embraces the latest trends. And so approximately 20% of the previous exam 601 was updated to include some of the latest trends and changes in the industry. And some of those are, advancements in cybersecurity technology, terms, techniques, and tools. And so it's going to be covering the latest trends we find in automation, zero trust, risk analysis, operational technology, and Internet of Things. And so if you pass the exam, then you should be equipped to excel in this ever evolving cybersecurity landscape. And also above, when we say ISO ANSI accredited, ISO is the International Organization of Standardization. It's a global organization that accredits various programs to ensure they meet specific standards. And one of those standards is having a continuing education program in place. And so with Security Plus, if you earn Security Plus, you then have to enroll in the CE program, continuing education program, and then get a certain number of CEUs earned over the 3-year period so that you can renew your Security Plus credit certification. If we look at where CompTIA Security Plus falls in our cybersecurity career pathway at CompTIA, we see that it's right about in the middle because it's an early career. And so if you see Security Plus in the middle there, all the certs to the left of it, those would be recommended prereqs. Now they're recommended because many of you probably already have networking skills, or maybe you already have support desk skills, or maybe you already have IT fundamentals. Because if we look to the left, IT fundamentals, well, that's covering like tech basics. It's when you're learning about a little bit about cybersecurity, a little bit about networking, a little bit about programming, to get so that you have a good familiarity with IT and what jobs are like in the IT world and your choices of jobs. Then when we get to A+, that's covering support desk skills, IT support desk skills. So that's typically when you would be taking calls in, and you're going to be talking to customers who are having issues with their technology products, and you would be giving them support to fix those technology issues. And I'm sure we've all called support desks at some point or another in our lives to get help and to get our computers working again. And Network Plus covers the networking fundamentals, and so that's covering how a network works. And that's a very important skill, probably among the most important before you take Security Plus, because you can't secure a network unless you know how the network works. So it's very important that before you take Security Plus, you at least have, the Network Plus certification or equivalent knowledge. And so you would need like a networking primer, something that is teaching you the basics, such as, what is a TCP/IP, which is the language of the internet. It's how all devices communicate on the internet. You'd also want to know about the OSI-RM model, the Open System Interconnect Reference Model. And that's basically how packets travel across the internet and how they interface, with each of the devices, so that a packet can be built, sent across the internet and then deconstructed. And then we get to Security Plus. And so Security Plus is at about the 2-year level of someone's career. So if you take and pass Security Plus, you essentially have at least the knowledge, skills, and abilities of someone who's been working in cybersecurity for about 2 years. And so you're going to understand a lot of the core skills, which we'll see later in the objectives. After that, we move into the intermediate level jobs. And so that includes things like PenTest Plus and CySA Plus. Those are typically at the 3 to 4 year level of someone's IT career. And so PenTest Plus covers penetration testing at about the 3-year level, and CySA Plus covers security analyst skills at about the 4-year level. And they can be taken in either order. And PenTest Plus, it's covering red team skills where you're actually going out and attacking systems and trying to find the vulnerabilities on them so you can exploit them. And these are often used for auditing. And so you can test your network and see how resilient it is to an attack. And if you're able to prove that you are indeed resilient to all these attacks from a pen tester, you can then comply to a various regulation. And so that's something we'll talk about later too in security program oversight and management. But that's a wonderful tool to find vulnerabilities in your own network before the bad actors find them. And we call those often, red team skills. CySA Plus, the security analyst exam, that is really testing you on security analyst skills, which are more blue team or defense skills. So CySA Plus is considered a blue team certification. And in that job role, you are defending your network. And so you're often doing continuous security monitoring of all the devices, and you're monitoring them to try to find anomalies that indicate bad behavior. And so this process can be done with tools like security information event management software, SIMs, that are often used out there. And there's a lot of other different defense tools that we use to monitor our networks and try to find, where the bad actors are attempting to, infiltrate the systems. Then, lastly, we have CASP Plus, which is an advanced level cert. So we've gone from, early career to intermediate, and now we're at advanced level career skills. And those are typically at the 5-year and higher level. And CASP Plus we've had around for over a decade, and it stands for CompTIA Advanced Security Practitioner, and it's really covering the skills of a senior security engineer and a security architect. And it's important that with the next version of CASP Plus that's coming out in Q4 of 2024, we're just going to be renaming CASP Plus to SecurityX. The exam code will remain the same. It will just be, go up by one number. It'll be CAS0-005. But we're just going to rename it to SecurityX. And so the CE program, the continuing education program, will remain the same. Everyone will just be getting basically a new badge that shows the, the new logo on it, essentially. We did this years ago with CYSA Plus, the exam I already talked about. For that one, it went from CSA Plus to CYSA Plus, just a name change. That's the same thing that we're doing with CASP Plus. So it won't affect any of your CE program or your status with CASP Plus.
Yeah, we have a few different questions coming in about certifications, so I'll throw a couple your way. Ralph is asking, can you please make an exam like SY0-701 that's just for IT professionals and not cybersecurity professionals? So I don't know if you wanted to talk maybe a little bit if that would be like the Network Plus equivalent, or it's also important for people to know there's other CompTIA certs. This is just showing the cybersecurity career pathway. There's also like the infrastructure and the data pathway. So if there's someone's more on the IT side, is there any recommendations you can provide?
Yes. So what you might want to look at is our other pathways, because we have 3 pathways. I'm just showing you the cybersecurity career pathway, but we also have an infrastructure pathway. And so if you look up, go into Google, say CompTIA career pathways, it will actually show you the different of the 3 that we have. And so you should look at the infrastructure pathway. And that's slightly different from this because it includes, A plus, Network plus, and Security plus, because those are foundational. But then it goes into Cloud plus, which covers, a cloud administrator position. Then it also has Linux plus, which goes, very deep into Linux, and it's a basic scripting. And then we have Cloud Plus, or I already mentioned Cloud Plus. So Linux Plus and Server Plus is the other one. So Server Plus is really working on servers, including data centers, which is likely more towards what you're looking for. And
Yeah, then
the third pathway we have. So I mentioned cybersecurity infrastructure. The third one is data, and so we have a new certification called Data Plus, which covers basically data administration skills. And then we just released Data Sys Plus, which covers a database administrator, those skills. And then we're about to release Data X in Q2 of 2024, and that's an expert series level certification that for a data scientist and what they would do. There we go. So that should cover it.
Great. We also have a question from Jay asking if you recommend any instructor-led boot camps. So that's kind of where Infosec sits in. CompTIA is one of our top partners and us one of theirs. So we actually have that $500 off promotion. If you click on that on the right side of the screen, you can learn all about the Infosec boot camps, which are available live online as well as in person at different locations. So encourage you to check that out. But then we also have a number of questions just about, we always get these about like the competitive certs. Someone's asking about the ISC2 certified in cybersecurity cert or the different Cisco certs like the CCST. Like, didn't know if you want to just take a moment to maybe talk about the competitive landscape and where Security Plus fits in, with all those more vendor specific certs or other types of certifications.
Oh, sure. If you go to our CompTIA website and you go to the Security Plus product page, which is it's CompTIA.org is our web address, CompTIA.org. And then go under certifications and you go to the Security Plus product page, which is CompTIA.org/certifications/security. And you scroll down, it actually, for every one of our certs, we list the the main competitors and who we when we go out into the market, the comparable ones that are also covering early career skills. And so when we look at Security Plus, we have the ISC2 System Security Certified Practitioner, SSCP. That would be somewhat comparable. Also, the GX Security Essentials, GSEC. That's another one that's comparable that we find Security Plus, running up against. And those are two that are certifications that are ISO ANSI approved. And so they also have the CE program. I noticed you also mentioned the ISC2 certified in cybersecurity. That right there is, that one is really just testing, cybersecurity terms and concepts. It's what I would call entry level because it's just covering vocabulary in many ways. And there's no performance-based questions on it. And so if you take, ISC2 certified in cybersecurity, it's not ISO ANSI approved, so it typically won't be, recognized by job, by employers without that CE program. But I've taken that one, and I thought it was a great, refresher on vocabulary anyhow. And as a matter of fact, the new Security Plus 701 that we have, the first domain is covering vocabulary as well.
Yeah, and you brought up performance-based questions. We have two questions about that. Marlene says that wondering if you have any recommendations for help with those questions. She doesn't have any network experience, and those are her weaknesses, and she failed the test in 2018 by 20 points due to this. And then we also have another question just asking for like examples of these performance-based questions and how they work. So can you talk a little bit about those and any advice for people who are worried about those on the exam?
Or as far as testing and you're trying to get practice questions, I mean, that would be, Jeff, that's something that your organization can provide. I mean, with our products, we do offer labs. that are, similar, that would simulate some of what you might end up finding. So with your training, Jeff, like for example, the equivalent of CertMaster Learn plus Labs, for example, would cover that. What have you got that's
Yeah,
similar to
for
that?
those we have our cyber ranges where you can go in and do those different interactive labs. I think we have a Security Plus specific one in our Infosec skills platform, so that's part of the boot camp. And then we also have unlimited practice attempts at, I'm not sure exactly how many written questions are in there, but there's hundreds, if not thousands, for Security Plus. I'd have to double check. So yeah, lots of opportunity to do those practices within our training as well. But can you talk a little bit about what those what it's going to be like on the exam? Like how long does the
Yes.
question take? What's it look like?
Yeah, so what'll happen when you go in to take the Security Plus exam, the test engine will actually give you the performance-based questions first. And so what I'd recommend is when you see those performance questions, there'll only be a handful of them, but they're very, very time consuming. So you might get, depending on the pool of questions you're getting, depending on you could be getting between 3 to 7 of those performance-based questions. And we've seen, instances where you get 3, but it could take you 45 minutes to do it, in theory. So one of the recommendations for test takers is when you first go into that exam and you're served up those performance-based questions, consider marking them and coming back to them, or else you won't have enough time to do the multiple choice questions which follow. And so, that would be one recommendation if that's, what you see when you get the questions, is to just, mark those that I will come back to them, um, using the software that comes with Pearson VUE. Doing the multiple choice questions, or else you can run out of time. It's happened to me before. I've taken many exams over the decades, and I've run out of time because I spent too much time on my performance-based questions. So that's one strategy. As far as what they offer, they're simulations, and so they're essentially simulating a real-world environment where you could be working and analyzing code, for example, that might or output from a cybersecurity tool. And you might need to look at that. For example, maybe it's a Wireshark output, and so you have to look at it and notice the anomaly perhaps in that data, and find information from the output of that specific security tool. So that's one example of what you might expect.
Yeah, one more question just came in. Are those simulation questions weighted differently from the other questions? Do you know?
Oh, I believe they are. Yes, yes, they are,
Okay.
and that is why you would have to make sure you finish them before the exam time is closed. And but you don't, because they take up a lot of time, but that time you're taking up is also going to be affected due to their weights. They would provide a more weight in the final score.
Yeah, we have a number of good questions here. I'll just ask one more and then we can move on to the exam changes. One of the common questions we get, and we have it here, is, can you do Security Plus without, taking those first three, the fundamentals, A plus and Network Plus? And, if you don't take those,
Yes.
will it cover the first three?
Yes, you can still take Security Plus without taking the other 3. There's many people who do, who it's a job requirement, yet they've been in cybersecurity. So it's really just proving that they have that knowledge, and those skills. And there's plenty of people that, teach Security Plus, and they just offer a, networking basics primer to the students. Perhaps at the very beginning of the Security Plus course, or sometimes I've even seen someone will offer, a week and a half networking primer course for people to take, just so they do understand the network before they take Security Plus. But they're not requirements, and you don't have to take A plus or Network Plus in order to in order to do well on Security Plus, although it will help you.
Great. Yeah, I think we can move on and save most of the questions for towards the end.
All right. Let's look at some of the changes. So for those of you that have the SY0-601 certification under your belt, here are the changes that have occurred with the 701 exam. And so basically, it's been updated to reflect skills relevant to job roles tasked with baseline security readiness and response to address today's threats and to prepare candidates to be more proactive in preventing the next attack. So the certification exam covers the same purpose that it did previously, which are these first four bullets. So it would enable, if you've passed the exam, it would enable you to be able to assess the security posture of an enterprise environment and recommend and implement appropriate security solutions. And so we talk about assessing the security posture. The security posture is basically how resilient a network is going to be to the next attack. And so you want a very strong, security posture. And sometimes when you look at regulations, they'll want you to come up with a score, maybe between 1 and 5. And so you'd be shooting for, in the case if 5 were the most secure, then that's what you would want. You'd want your security posture to be a 5. But basically, it's a way to, provide or rank your company's ability to protect itself and to be able to have it be trustworthy, and then have people be able to do business with you, knowing that that their information is going to be safe. And so this enables you to be able to determine, oh, is this a safe, is the security posture of this network, is it high or is it low? Well, you can determine that by finding how many vulnerabilities you find. For example, like if you run a vulnerability scan and you find, a large number of vulnerabilities, that may indicate that your security posture is not very strong. And so you would need to put some work into it and to, fix those vulnerabilities so that they're no longer a risk for your company. That's one example. Another is monitoring and securing hybrid environments. This includes cloud, mobile, Internet of Things, and operational technology. And so we're looking at, when we say monitoring, we're talking about, continuous security monitoring using SIMs, which I mentioned earlier. And being able to monitor not only on-premises environments, which are traditional environments that we typically had, where a company has a server room and all of the tools there, and their IT team works in that server room, as well as monitoring cloud environments where you're essentially renting someone's data. Data servers and such, like when you go to the cloud with Azure, with AWS, where you're essentially just renting someone else's network to run your applications. So we're teaching basically how to monitor and secure in all environments, because we find that about 70% of IT workers are now working in hybrid environments. That's huge. And then also we want to ensure that another goal is that you can operate with an awareness of applicable regulations and policies. That includes principles of governance, risk, and compliance. And GRC is the term for governance, risk, and compliance. And that's really whenever we're looking at if our company is going to be responsible for implementing one of these. And typically it will come from your company's leadership. They might say, okay, well, you have to adapt to PCI DSS, which is a standard that is called payment card information, or payment card industry data security standard. And that ensures that you encrypt all of your credit card numbers that your company is in possession of, because they used to not have to do that. And so if a hacker, a bad actor, were able to come in and grab the credit card numbers, they used to not be encrypted. And so they would have the credit card numbers available to use. But PCI DSS ensures that all companies encrypt the credit card numbers. So if they are exfiltrated by a bad actor, it's going to be more difficult for them to decrypt that credit card number and then use it. And so that's a good example there. And lastly, identifying, analyzing, and responding to security events and incidents. So this is when you're doing continuous security monitoring, for example, and you find a security incident, a potential breach. you need to be able to respond to that. So, what are some of the techniques for incident response? How can we respond to this threat or vulnerability or attack and mitigate it? And mitigate is to reduce the risk of, that threat. And so there are many steps that can be done. There are things called playbooks, and playbooks enable you to basically say, oh, okay, well, I see, what this problem is here. It looks like, we have an attack on one of our servers. And so what you could do is you could actually put that server in its own network segment. And that way the contagion might be, it will just stay within that network segment and not spread out to the other systems on your network. And so, network segmentation is a popular tool for at least, for mitigating the risk, because you just got that server in its own network segment, and it can reduce contagion. So, and I also mentioned the 20% of exam objectives. They were updated to include the current trends in the industry, which, some of those are, there's more threats, attacks, and vulnerabilities than ever before. So you need to know what those are. Automation, zero trust, risk, and then Internet of Things and operational technology, cloud environments, all of that's emphasized, as well as communication, reporting, and teamwork. And then, the other thing is very important too is the hybrid environments. So you need to be able to work on premises and in cloud, because we're finding companies are staying with both, because a lot of them need they want the extra security of on premises, although that of course can be argued. But we find that a lot of companies want to even save costs in some cases by keeping some of their information on premises. While we were doing research for this, we learned that a lot of companies that during COVID, during the pandemic, they were moving a lot of their assets to the cloud, and now they're quietly taking their assets out of the cloud and putting them back on premises in order to save money, because they overbuilt during the pandemic. And then when the pandemic and things perhaps changed, people returned back to work, they found that the payments were too high from renting, the cloud equipment. And so they're actually finding it cheaper, only in some cases with some companies. They're finding it cheaper to just have their own systems, and then their own staff to actually protect those resources. So we see the quiet, migration of some assets back to on-prem, which is fascinating, because I wouldn't have expected that. All right. And how is 701 different from 601? Well, it's a similar skill level. It continues to identify early career cybersecurity skills at the 2-year level. 701 has the same number of exam domains, but fewer objectives due to a more focused job role in a maturing industry. And so we've found that, security administrators, we now really know what they're required to do and what they're not required to do, because there's different job roles. And so, even with Security Plus, we were able to take out, some of the pen testing stuff and put it in, PenTest Plus for that job role. Some of the basic networking skills, taken out, put in Network Plus. And so we're finding the cybersecurity industry in general is becoming more refined, more focused, and now we know better than ever the job roles that we need to focus on and the skills we need to focus on, and importantly, what we don't need to focus on. The related job roles are similar, which I was just talking about. It's become more defined, and the skills are performed and identified with more accuracy. Also, we have a lot more NICE work roles, which I'm going to show you. So any of you who work with the NICE framework, it's a US-based framework that identifies work roles for cybersecurity. We map to a lot of those with the 701. Also, several exam domains and exam objectives were reordered and renamed to address instructional design improvements. For example, we now have a domain called General Security Concepts that covers the basic principles such as confidentiality, integrity, availability, as well as what a security control is, different types of security controls that you'd be responsible for, um, you know, uh, for keeping and implementing, as well as the vocabulary, so that you can speak the same language as other cybersecurity professionals. Another area was the implementation from 601. We had one domain that just focused on implementation, but that's where most of the hands-on work was. Well, we've changed that for instructional design purposes, and now the implementation is done in the domain where that implementation would take place. And so that was just a sound, change for education, that you would, cover the implementation where the skill is being taught. That makes a lot of sense. Last thing I wanted to point out was that the name Governance, Risk, and Compliance was changed from the old version for that domain, which was domain 5. That domain changed from Governance, Risk, and Compliance to Security Program Management and Oversight. So those of you that are familiar with 601, what we have learned over the past 3 years and longer than that, it's been a trend coming, is that when you're a cybersecurity professional, when you're a security administrator, which is what this job role is teaching, you don't have to be a compliance analyst or a GRC specialist. What you need to be able to do is essentially report and communicate the work you are working on, because you'll likely be working with someone else who represents GRC, who perhaps is a compliance analyst, or perhaps it is your CISO, your Chief Information Security Officer, his office, right, or her office, that you have to then provide information to them that they will then use to report to the the agency that they're responsible for, proving that you are fulfilling a framework, or that you're fulfilling a regulation. There's a lot of different forms of that out there. But what you need to know is that cybersecurity professionals, someone in Security Plus, they just need to be able to report the trends that they're seeing in various reports that are set up, and that then go to the GRC teams. So that's a key change, because we used to think that security administrators, cybersecurity pros, all had to be more familiar with GRC, and we're finding now, no, you need to report and communicate. And as far as the work roles go, the primary work roles have remained the same from 601 to 701. We're looking at security administrator, systems administrator. Secondary job roles are also similar: help desk analyst, security engineer, security analyst. And then a big change is, nice work roles. So I just wanted to show you a few of those, because it maps to 18 of them, the new one. This is a little bit hard to see, but these are all work roles. These are primarily US based, so this won't apply to everyone. And a lot of companies, may not use the nice work role, but I at least want you to be aware of it, that it maps to 80% to the core objectives required for these 18 nice work roles. And so we also have a web page. So if you go and type in, CompTIA NICE, which just stands for the National Initiative for Cybersecurity Education, and NICE now just goes by NICE. They don't write it out any longer. But if you go to CompTIA NICE and put that in your Google search, let's see, I'll put in CompTIA NICE mapping. So I put in CompTIA NICE mapping, and then I just got a page that talks about CompTIA and NICE setting the standard for safe cyber practices, and that's where we have the more explanation of these work roles. So organizations that helped us create 701, they come from all the way from small to medium-sized businesses to global enterprises, in various different industries as well. A lot of people from finance helped us with this. A lot of people from corporate helped us with this. And then we even got people who helped us from government as well. And so we see here, Wells Fargo helped nationwide. John Hopkins University Applied Physics, which does a lot of work with the Navy to secure the Navy's systems, including their aircraft. We also have Fidelity Investments, Five9, Zoom, Microsoft. And we see some big contractors like L3 Harris, the Dell Secure Works, General Dynamics IT. And so, we had a lot of help from across the globe on this. And we had over 2,000 touch points as far as those who helped us create the exam to creating, to working with surveys to even doing the pre development research. So if we look at the exam domains, can quickly go through these. The first domain is general security concepts. And so this is talking about, what a security control is. And, for those of you that don't know what a security control is, they're one of the, most foundational, concepts in cybersecurity, in that their security controls are safeguards or countermeasures that an organization implements to protect its physical property, information, computer systems, or other assets from security risk or threats. These security controls, they could be policies, procedures, techniques, methods, solutions, plans, actions, devices. But what they do is they aim to preserve a CIA. They aim to preserve the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. And so some of these security controls include things like firewalls, antivirus software, surveillance systems. They can even include security guards, and the inventory of authorized and unauthorized devices. And we often find security controls, in frameworks and standards that we as cybersecurity professionals are responsible for implementing. So a lot of people's work in cybersecurity, their whole job is just around implementing these security controls. Some of the security controls can include things like from the risk management framework, the RMF, which is widely used in the US. It's a NIST tool, which is the National Institute of Standards and Technology in the US. One of the security controls that is commonly used is continuous monitoring, continuous security monitoring, so that you're always making sure you're monitoring all of your devices and taking in the logs from those, analyzing them, and trying to find anomalies that indicate bad behavior, so then you can try to mitigate whatever incident you've uncovered. So it's one of the basic things you have to learn about. So you learn about various types of security controls, about security concepts. This is where you're going to be learning about all the vocabulary involved with this. You're also going to be learning about change management. Change management is one of the most complex, difficult things to do in IT, as many of you know, because one change, it's like a domino effect across the entire network. And you can not be able to implement a change because of that domino effect. And it can be very frustrating. And change management has just become more difficult as we move forward. And so now it's included just right up front. And also the importance of cryptographic solutions. And so, we have to make sure that you know about encryption, and we have to encrypt our data when we are working on computers, because if it's not, it can immediately be used by a bad actor. Domain 2, threats,
Just jumping in really
vulnerabilities,
quick, just to let you know we have about
Yeah.
10 minutes left. So just FYI.
Okay. Yeah. How much time do you need to wrap up?
Yeah, it'd be good if you can wrap this up, the domains, in the next 5 minutes, and then we can take a couple more questions before we end.
Perfect. Okay, so domain 2, threats, vulnerabilities, and mitigations. This is essentially, learning about what, the different threats, vulnerabilities, and mitigations you're going to be up against. And there's a lot of new ones. And so you've got to be familiar with them. And you've got to know, who threat actors are, who are the people that are attacking you, and how can you defend yourself against them. Because many times, if you're like a financial company, we know at this point, using things like the MITRE Navigator, we know what the bad actors are going to attack, how they're going to attack, and we can have playbooks if you're a financial company, and you can implement a lot of the playbooks, and you can be able to protect yourself before you've even been attacked. Security architecture. We need to make sure that you understand different architecture models, such as on-premises, such as in the cloud. Also, as well as zero trust. What is that? And so we need to understand, different architectures, even different cloud architectures. And we need to be able to, then apply security principles to an architecture in order to design it well. And so you won't be doing a lot of design, but you will be doing a lot of, where you're actually given a scenario, and then you need to apply the security principles to secure that infrastructure. And so some of the basic things would be, oh, well, I need to do, I need to do continuous security monitoring. I need to run vulnerability scans on a regular basis, hopefully automated. And then you need to understand the importance of resilience and recovery in security architecture. So, this is related to security posture. It's how secure is your system going to be against the next attack? Next is security operations. This is the day-to-day operations. This is where we see continuous security monitoring. And, oftentimes there might even be a SOC, which is a security operations center, where the cybersecurity professionals will work. And this is where you're actually, going to be applying updates, as software is updated. Are you going to be doing the security alerting and monitoring? And you're going to be doing incident response activities for when you find anomalies that indicate bad behavior. And lastly, security program management and oversight. And so this is essentially where you have to understand effective security governance and what that entails. And usually it's making sure that you're implementing a series of security controls that are defined by a particular framework or regulation that your company is required to to implement. But also being able to report that information. And so that's a big part of risk management, is reporting the risks that you find in the network, because that will help determine how secure your network is. And you have to understand security compliance. What does it mean to comply? And usually that's by, if you've implemented the security controls, and if you can prove that you've implemented them, then you are showing compliance, to a particular control, for example. Also, this is where audits and assessment comes in. You need to understand, auditing is, one of the main goals of it is to, prove, is through, in a small investigation by someone who's an auditor, they would basically ask questions, and then you would need to show that you have indeed, performed those activities, and that your company is safe to particular threats, for example. And then implement security awareness practices so that people at your company are aware of what to look at, such as phishing, for example, is something we want to protect against. So as far as the exam details go, I mentioned the exam was released November 7th. It's available worldwide. The retail price is $392 US. And the testing provider is Pearson VUE Testing Center. So you can take it online using OnView, or you can go to an on-ground testing center. Performance-based multiple choice, 90 minutes long, up to 90 questions. Passing score is a 750, available in English with Japanese, Portuguese, and Spanish to follow. The recommended experience, mind you, this is recommended only, Network Plus, and 2 years of experience working in a security systems administrator job role. And lastly, the exam, remember, is going to retire the previous one. Also, that slide there should say exam retirement. It should say SY0-601 to retire July 31st, 2024. So we need to change that slide, Jeff.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, good. And I'm sure that was my issue. Okay, and now I'm sending it over to you, because that wraps up my part. And I can ask questions when you're done, answer questions when you're done.
Yeah, I know we have a few questions about training and where to take practice tests and all that kind of stuff. So I mentioned this already briefly, so I'll only take maybe 30 seconds to cover it. But we do really have two ways to train for Security Plus certification. We have that $500 off live boot camps. So if you want live instruction, you can read all the things on the screen that's covered there, as well as our exam pass guarantee. So if you fail the exam, you can take it a second time at no cost to you. All those practice exams and cyber ranges and labs and things that we talked about. But we also have our Infosec skills subscription. So that's, not live instruction. That's just, recorded videos. You still get access to those practice exams and labs and things. That's a great option if you're looking for, not live instruction, or if you just, we have a number of people who are asking, should I take this cert? Is this the right one for me? I always think these on-demand training platforms are a great option if you're just looking around, because you can start taking Security Plus and then realize, wow, this is way too much for me, or this is too easy, and you can switch to take a different one, without that investment of a live boot camp. So I definitely recommend the Infosec Skills platform if you're interested in just exploring or self-training. And then if you want a live boot camp, you can click on the right side of the screen and get more info there. So we can wrap up here in a couple of minutes, have time for one or two more questions. Sorry, we won't be able to get to them all. We do have a couple of questions around AI, which I guess is sort of the big story of the year. I don't know, like as you're doing like the job task analysis, did AI come up at all? Is that, part in Security Plus or in any of the other certs? That's something that you guys discuss at all?
Yeah, right now with AI, there is a mention to it. It's in the it's mentioned in the vocabulary. If you look at the 701 objectives, you'll find AI listed there. But as far as there's not a specific objective written to it in this case, and so you won't be tested directly on AI in Security Plus. But if you take the training material, you'll learn about AI and how it's in the ways that it's being used in cybersecurity.
Yeah, we have a question about some AI courses. We do have a Keitron Evans has a nice sort of ChatGPT SOC analyst course where he kind of uses ChatGPT as like a tool to help learn how to perform SOC analyst functions. We have some other AI potential boot camps coming up in 2024. So if you're curious in that, I would keep an eye out. I guess last question, just to summarize, we have a lot of different questions about people being sales consultants, or maybe they're not technical but they need to talk to CIOs, or one question about being a medical device or working with medical device manufacturer companies. But I guess there's a lot of people that maybe aren't in security roles but need to understand security, so and be able to talk about it intelligently. And they're looking for advice on, if they should take Security Plus or something else. I don't know if you have any recommendation, if it's worth it, if you're not technical, to go beyond Security Plus, or just any thoughts there for those folks in those type of roles.
Well, certainly, Security Plus is technical. I mean, you have to remember it's targeting someone at the 2-year level in their cybersecurity career. So if you're working with medical devices, if you did pass and get Security Plus and you had, the basic networking skills, you would be unstoppable. You would be an absolutely powerful salesperson who would do incredibly well in your role. Now, the question is Security Plus too much? For what you need to do in order to get your job done. And if you're just looking for, basic vocabulary, for example, and you might be looking more for an entry level cybersecurity cert versus an early career cybersecurity certification. But I can tell you the sales folks that I know that have Security Plus are really good at their job, because they can do a lot of the pre-sales and the a lot of the pre-engineering work when they go in, and they can understand the client and what their needs are better, and so I've only seen it be a positive, but it's difficult. So you'd have to have a desire to go into the technical aspects of cybersecurity and really submerge yourself and become an IT pro for a little while. And when I say
Awesome.
IT pro, I mean an IT professional. Yeah, you'd be putting that hat on for sure.
Yeah. Well, with that, we're out of time. Apologies if we couldn't get to all your questions. Like I said, a recording of this will go out later today, as well as with some links to additional resources if that can help you learn more about the Security Plus. I appreciate Patrick joining us today, and there will be a short survey that pops up when we end this broadcast. Appreciate if you take 30 seconds to fill that out. Let us know what you thought of this webinar and if there's any other things you'd like us to cover in the future. Thanks, everybody.